Hello, this is Artemis_anime, and today I am reading Viridian Chapter 7, Breaking the Exams, by Silver Mist Anime Lover. I hope you enjoy! Aizawa Shota sighed tiredly as he took his place in the examiner room at UA. He didn't exactly agree with the hour that the exam was held at, but he supposed that was only because he didn't get off shift until 4:30 that same morning. He smirked as he pulled out his phone, clicking into the group chat.
Let me sleep. I'm fucking tired and it's all your fault, Viridian Chaos. Nope, it's your fault too. You didn't have to sit and talk to me. Besides, you're the one who brought caffeine. Detective Holmes. Another late night with no coffee? Viridian Chaos. I can hear your amusement from here, Masa. And I just said there was caffeine, obviously that'd be coffee. So there. Detective Holmes, I keep telling you not to call me by my given name, let alone a butchered form of it. Sugamine, and you aren't used to this by now? Viridian Chaos, how about Fury then? Like that old character from the Marvel movies? He's pretty kick-ass. Viridian Chaos changed Detective Holmes' usernames to Fury. Fury, change it back. Viridian Chaos, whoops, gotta go. I've got some shit to do. Text you later. Have fun at the UA entrance exams at Eraser. I think you'll be pretty impressed with this year's batch. Let me sleep. You've been watching them? Viridian Chaos. I may have seen one or two of them use a quirk here or there. Winky face. I hope you manage to keep some of your class this year. Let me sleep. I'm going to regret getting up this morning, aren't I? Fury. Don't you always?
Shota sighed as he pocketed his phone, ignoring the questioning look that Namori was sending him. Texting your partner again? She smirked, amused. He's not my... Shota sighed. Technically, he supposed Viridian was his partner. Keep telling yourself that. Personal feelings aside, Shota couldn't shake the feeling that Viridian was someone he should keep an eye on. The past almost year that he'd been interacting with the vigilante had made him actually like him. The fact that the vigilante had once taken a goddamned bullet for him didn't hurt the trust that he was fostering with this mysterious man either. And he was still worried about his friend? Were they friends? Because the guy never seemed to go to the fucking hospital either. Shota had half a mind to make him take the stupid hero licensing exam and get him certified, so he wouldn't even have an excuse about not going to the stupid hospital. So, what do you think of the examinees this year? Namori asked as she slipped an arm around his shoulders, startling him out of his thoughts. I don't know. The exam's almost just starting. Shota replied as his husband's voice filtered across the speakers.
Go!
He noted that only one examinee in Battle Center B bothered to move. It was a kid with the green fluffy hair and a hoodie. He also held... Did he get that approved? Shota pointed to the sword that the kid wielded. Nezu looked up at the screen. Oh yes! Examining 2234. Midoriya Izuku. He sent in the request for a few items a couple months ago. I saw no problem with it, so I agreed. Items? Other than a sword? Cementos asked, watching as the kid tore through a 3-pointer brutally. Damn, he actually knows how to wield that, Shota thought in disbelief. Yes, he only asked for 3 things, Nezu grinned. His sword? The kid shoved another examinee out of the way as he blocked an attack that would have seriously injured the other kid. A first aid kit? Nezu continued as the kid helped another examinee who'd gotten a rather nasty cut on his arm. He wrapped the wound with the fast kind of diligence that would only come from field experience. And a lot of it. Who the hell is this kid? And a cell phone. A cell phone? Snipe asked, incredulously. Nezu nodded. I'm quite interested to see what he's planning, to be honest. What are his points so far? Midnight asked. 37, Cementos stated. He's doing a fantastic job, but in helping the other examinees, he's hindering his villain points. He's regaining them in rescue points, though. I'm somewhat worried to see an examinee with that much medical experience, 13 admitted. It's unnerving to watch him act around the buildings blowing up around him like it's normal. Did you notice? I did, Shota nodded. Something was off about this kid. Did he survive a villain attack or something? No, that would make sense if the loud noises were inducing more traumatic reactions. He seemed almost like a soldier used to the chaos and havoc around him. Even pros wouldn't be quite that calm. Though Shoto imagined that it was possible the kid just felt safer knowing it was an exam. Let's see how everyone reacts to this, then. Nezu let out a feral grin as he pressed a big red button, TM, to release the 0 pointers. He expected the kid to freeze, to run like everyone else, no matter how disappointed Shota and the other teachers were when everyone ran. But, to their shock, he got up and ran towards the massive killer robot without a hint of hesitation, almost like he was waiting for it. Look, there's a girl trapped under the rubble, Cementos pointed out, and Midnight radioed Hazashi to make sure that the hero was on standby, ready to rescue her if need be. What's that Midoriya kid doing? 13 asked, watching as he jumped on top of an active 1-pointer and then pried off the panel on the back of the robot and pulled out his phone. He messed around with something that the camera couldn't see before the smaller robot stopped moving. He grinned and started typing in haste. A moment later, every robot in Battle Center B shut down, including the 0-pointer. The room was silent, and the sound of someone dropping their pen sounded like a grenade. Did that just happen? Was that a glitch? Midnight stuttered. I don't believe it. Nezu's eyes were wide and gleaming with excitement. He hacked the robots! He broke the exam! With a cell phone! He started laughing maniacally. You don't seriously mean... Vlad King looked pale as he realized that Nezu was interested and excited by this kid. No way. All Might's eyes were wide and he choked on his own saliva. That can't be the same boy. You know him, All Might. Shota's eyes narrowed. No, I met him once. I remember him vaguely. He's quirkless. His words sent the room into murmurs. All the more reason. Nezu grinned. Aizawa, I hope you'll train this boy properly. He'll be joining you in your class this year. Shota bit back a groan. Great. Just what I need. A problem child. Yes, sir. Because what else was he supposed to say to his boss? Vlad King sent him a pitying look. For a moment, he wondered if this quirkless boy was related in any way to the quirkless vigilante, but quickly brushed off the thought. There were plenty of quirkless people in the older generation. It was highly unusual for a child to be born quirkless in this day and age, and he was sure he'd need to keep an eye out for any lasting trauma from a rough childhood due to that. But there were plenty more quirkless people in Viridian's age group. Besides, Sukuuchi had assured him that the man had spoken the truth when asked his reason for being a vigilante, and he stated that he'd failed every high school hero exam he'd taken, which meant that he was a fully grown man, not a 15-year-old boy. No, there was no possible way that Viridian and Midoriya Izuku could be the same person. Shota took a sip of his coffee, and the thought wouldn't pop back in his head for weeks to come. Izuku was a wreck. It'd been nearly 2 weeks since the exam, and he had no idea if he passed or not. Shota, his Shota, had told him about the rescue points, so he'd made sure to help as many people as possible. Logically, with the 40-something villain points he'd managed to get, plus the rescue points, he was probably going to pass. But what if they knocked out points for his quirklessness? Or recklessness? Or hacking the robots? He hadn't even thought of being disqualified for it. So here he was, stalking his mother's house to steal his UA letter before she came out to Snapchat. Izuku obviously couldn't tell them to send his mail to a dump now, could he? And though Kaigo had offered to let him use his address, The fact that a quirkless 15-year-old knew the number 3 hero well enough to use his private address would bring up more questions than he'd like to answer. Besides, his mother and he shared the same last name. They wouldn't even look twice at the address. Beyond that, there was a tiny, bitter part of him that didn't really care if All for One targeted his Inko. He tensed when he saw the thick, heavy envelope mixed with the bills. He carefully replaced the rest of his Inko's mail and quickly made his way back home. He'd also been unable to meet up with Gay a Fanime Boy's brother, though he had caught sight of spiky red hair in the crowd at some point. He'd honestly been far too worried about everything to process much. And fuck, seeing his present Mike up on stage was hard. Really fucking hard. And it took every ounce of self-control he had not to cry upon seeing him, or rush up there and assure himself that he was okay. He swallowed down an unbearably strong urge to apologize, but he must have made some sound because the blue-haired kid called him out on being disruptive. Luckily, Izuku managed to pull himself together by that point, so the spotlight illuminating him hadn't reflected off the house-formed tears, though he was now able to see the flash of concern in present Mike's face. He knew the man had seen something, and immediately called the attention back to himself. Izuku was grateful. He hadn't said anything to the blue-haired kid. Wasn't he a member of the Ida family? Because he couldn't let anything hinder his chances of getting into UA. He had to pass. The literal fate of the world depended on it. He shook his head to dispel the thoughts. The exam was over, and if all went according to plan, then he'd just have to get used to seeing Hisashi and everyone all over again. Once he was settled into his camper, he sat down on his ratty futon and carefully opened the envelope. Kaigo was out on patrol right now, so Izuku was blessedly alone. A thick, heavy disc fell onto the floor with a thump and a projection appeared.
I am here! As a projection!
All Might's smiling face beamed down at Izuku, and he couldn't help but scowl. Sure, he didn't necessarily hate the symbol of peace, but he didn't like the man either. Experience had taught him the bitter truth to All Might's words on the rooftop that day. He was no longer angry with him over what he had said, but he was still hurt and a little bitter for it. Izuku was allowed to feel hurt for having his dream crushed by his hero after all.
You managed to get 44 villain points in the exam. Well done, my boy.
Not your boy. Izuku glared half-heartedly, deciding to ignore the fact that this was the projection.
Unfortunately, this in itself is not enough to pass.
Izuku's heart stuttered, and for one horrific moment, he feared he'd blown everything. If he hadn't passed, then the next best bet was to take up Kaigo and Aizawa on their offers of a sponsorship. He'd have to reveal his identity, but...
However,
his attention snapped back to the projection.
You were also awarded rescue points during the exam, and you, Midoriya Izuku, managed to gain an astonishing 88 rescue points. Amazing! Not only that, but you managed to do something incredible. Nobody has ever managed to hack the robots before, and Principal Nezu is keen on meeting you himself.
He stared at the projection. From what Izuku had heard of the mouse rat bear dog thing that was the principal of UA, he wasn't really sure if that was a good thing or not. Shota seemed to be rather terrified of the little guy.
Congratulations! 132 points puts you at the top of the list. Not only that, but you've broken the record. Welcome, Midoriya Shonen, to your Hero Academia.
The projection shut off, and Izuku sighed in relief. I made it. It took him several minutes of staring at the ceiling of his makeshift home before he found himself crying and laughing hysterically. The first time he'd taken the exam, he'd failed miserably. Not a single point, villain or rescue, and he'd subsequently failed every hero school entrance exam he'd taken before setting out for an academic school instead. And while his choice was by no means a shitty school, it still wasn't heroics. Eventually, he went to trade school for technology, hoping to at least make support weapons for heroes. He found that he had an knack for hacking and technology, and pursuing that career, eventually gaining a PhD in computer science, hence how he wrecked the robots so easily. However, he soon became restless, and making support gear and helping out heroes by hacking information for them just wasn't enough. Even if his support gear was well known as some of the best available, right up there with Hatsume Industries, he needed to be out there, helping people, really helping them. So, he took up his proverbial cape and cowl and became a vigilante. He really sucked at first. But luckily, there'd been much more sinister things to keep the attention of the heroes and police occupied until he found his rhythm. He'd been a very well-known and semi-respected vigilante for 6 years before the apocalypse hit, before Shigaraki gained the power of All for One and destroyed everything, releasing the feral Nomu, leveling cities and entire nations with the flick of a wrist, killing All Might. Izuku shook his head, dispelling the memories as he held a very real acceptance letter to UA Heroics course. It's like a dream. Maybe I actually did die. He shifted, wincing as he accidentally whacked his funny bone off the side of the table. Ow. Most dreams don't have pain, only flashbacks, memories, and nightmares. So, not a dream? He tilted his head, laughing. Not that my dreams have ever been this kind. He shook his head. He needed to rest. He'd been too worried about the letter to really do much lately, and he could feel his eyes burning with the need for sleep. He picked up a photo of his real family and kept it face down so Kaiga wouldn't see it by accident, because it'd bring up a lot of uncomfortable questions. I really did it, Shota. Sashi, Nemura. Please watch over me. I promise you, I'll do everything I can to make it right. The stars twinkled down at him.
The Cult of Viridian Chat. Gay Anime Boy is online. Gay Anime Boy. Guys, my brother just passed. He made it into UA's Hero Quest. No Scatterly. Are you okay? Moldy Broccoli. OMV, that's amazing. Barbie is a whore. OMV. Moldy Broccoli. Oh my Viridian. We are the Cult of Viridian, so that means he's our god. Deku. What did I just walk in on? Confused emoji. Gay Anime Boy. My brother made it into UA. He's gonna be a hero. Though he said he didn't see you there. Sad face. Deku. I think I saw him in the crowd, but I was too nervous to talk to him. Shrug. The cake is a lie. You didn't tell us how you did, Deku. Demonic gay microwave. Cake. She might not want to talk about it. Deku. Actually, I passed. Like, I can still hardly believe it. I made it into the hero course. Gay Anime Boy. Congratulations, you did it. You might be in the same class as my bro. That'd be so cool. Deku. Huh? Cool? Miss Steadily. Deku. You realize that your hero analysis skills are top notch, right? Like, people know you on the internet. Deku. The cake is a lie. I mean, with a quirk like yours, I'm sure you'll become a great hero. Smiley face. Deku. Quirk? Miss Steadily. Sorry, Deku. We all kind of just assumed you had some kind of analysis quirk. Deku. Actually, that's the thing. The reason I'm so shocked that I made it into UA is because I'm quirkless. Miss Steadily. Shock face. What? Barbie is a whore. You're joking. Deku. Nope. 2 pinky toe joints. Gay Anime Boy. So, you're like, what, UA's first quirkless student? That's so manly. Deku. I mean, I think so. I don't know how I managed to pass. The cake is a lie. Remind me never to challenge you to a fight. Jeez, you don't need a quirk to kiss a gas, apparently. Deku. I've got to go. My family and I are celebrating my success. Move steadily. Congrats, have fun. The cake is a lie. And no worries. We don't care that you're quirkless. Gay Anime Boy. Internet's great for finding friends that don't give a fuck. Barbie is a whore. Language. Gay Anime Boy. Currently language setting is Japanese with a dash of I don't give a fuck. has logged out.
Shota sighed as he left the croft's rooftops with Viridian. It was about a week before the start of school, and he had about 1.5 million things to do. Fortunately, patrols were a lot easier when you weren't going it alone. He'd been patrolling with the vigilante nearly every night now. The guy was pretty much healed, and his patrol route was never the same twice. He always found the most trouble, though. It was like Viridian had a built-in beacon for people who needed help. And Shota had noted that many of the people who called out for help were near the south side exclusively called Viridian himself, like he was the only one who would heed their cries for help. Either way, it'd been a rather busy night, and things were starting to calm down. The two of them stopped atop a roof for a breather. "What do you say, a quick cup of joe?" Viridian asked, tilting his head. "Cup of joe? Isn't that an American saying?" "From the 21st and 20th centuries, actually," he grinned. Not for the first time, the hero wondered who actually was beneath the mask, or how old he was at the very least. "Coffee sounds good," he agreed. But then again, Shota was always down for a cup of coffee. The two of them landed on the street level and went into the nearby cafe. It was one of Shota's regular haunts, and the barista recognized him immediately. "Ah, Eraserhead, your usual?" He nodded as she rattled off his order to one of the other baristas who started his coffee. "And Ree, long time no see, your usual as well?" she asked the vigilante, and Shota twerked internally. Mostly because Viridian was probably coming up to Shota's favorite coffee shop long before they teamed up. Right under my nose. "You got it, Yuko!" He smiled back at her, and Shota could swear he saw her blush. Within minutes, they were seated at the table with their drinks. It was nearly the end of their shift anyhow. There shouldn't be anything for the last 20 minutes unless some idiot decided that 4 in the morning was the perfect time to rampage. Which, knowing Viridian's luck, was a very real possibility. I haven't been here in weeks." Viridian sat back in his seat and pulled up his mask. Shota had noticed that the man never spoke with his mask up. "What's there?" "It's not a voice disguiser." He blinked up in surprise at the small mechanical device stitched discreetly into the fabric of the mask. The vigilante shot him a fanged smirk as he pulled his mask back down. "Yep," he chirped happily. "I could be a lot older or younger than you anticipated. Or I could be a girl." His eyes crinkled with an amused grin. "Or this could be my real voice and I use my voice changer on my enemies." "I'm going to get another migraine if I try and get a straight answer out of you, aren't I?" "Absolutely. But that's what the coffee's for." "You're giving me gray hairs, Viridian." "Please, your students do that for me." "I don't have any students this year." "Ah, but that'll change," he smiled. "Unlikely." Shota shook his head. He hadn't been overly impressed by too many of his prospective students this year. Sans the one kid with the explosion quirk and quirkless wonder who'd hacked all the robots. "Oh? That look on your face tells me otherwise. Care to share?" "I'm not allowed to discuss my students with an outsider." "Oh, Shota, I'm hurt. I thought we were friends." "I have no friends." "Liar." "I'm your friend, and so are Masa and Ken." He got the distinct impression that Viridian was sticking a tongue out at him. "Come on, we've got 10 minutes. We should at least finish the loop." He wouldn't admit it, but he was starting to enjoy Viridian's crazy patrol route. As mentioned earlier, it was never the same twice, but it typically took them through the south side and then halfway across town. The pattern was seemingly random, but it seemed that they always found the most trouble. At first, he'd been wary of patrolling the south side. There were awful rumors of that place, and many doubtful people lived there at all. The conditions were terrible too. Heroes and villains alike avoided the place like a plague. Even the police typically ignored it. It used to be the original Mufasa, before the city started expanding, but a major earthquake decades ago made it into a ghost town. Now, Southside had become a lawless area. Well, it was lawless until the vigilante showed up. It seemed Viridian's presence was just doing a lot of good in that place. Now, Shota patrolled the area even without the vigilante. The whole point of heroism was to help people after all. Though, if he kept his phone a little closer at his hand those nights, he'd never tell anyone. The stigma was there for a reason after all. Fine, workaholic. The vigilante pushed in his chair and tidied up the table before joining the impatient hero. You do realize that cleaning up the tables is part of their job, right? Viridian twitched. Had Shota hit a nerve? And do you have any idea how irritating it is when people don't clean up after themselves? I've worked in restaurants before. Yeah, it's part of the job, but it shouldn't have to be. We've got about 1 million other tasks to take care of aside from cleaning tables and making orders, Detail cleaning, dishes, making more food, tempting everything, cleaning the floors, stocking the utensils and napkins, refilling the condiment bottles, cleaning cockroaches and soda fountains, and refilling sinks, and cleaning drains, and cleaning the bathroom, sweeping outside, trash, windows, counting the registers, and safe, answering the phone, getting orders out on time, paperwork, bank runs, and more restocking. Viridian grew more and more irritated with each task he listed off. And then this bitch calls. Oh, my order wasn't made right. And I tried calling 16 times, but nobody picked up. And what the hell are you supposed to say? Sorry, we had a rush with a line outside the door and 3 people on staff with a last-minute call-out, so nobody was available to take the phone. And then, of course, there's that one family who lets their kid make an absolute war zone out of their food you make them. And then they don't even bother to tell you about it so you can clean it up without having to slave on your knees on tile with a bottle of bleach. For a long time, Shota just stared at Viridian as the vigilante panted. Are you okay? No. Nobody who works in the food industry is okay. He shook his head. Right. Okay, so that was one landmine Shota never wanted to step on again. So, you hold a job outside the vigilante business? Unlike pros, we don't get paid for what we do, Viridian replied, visibly calmer than before. But no, I'm unemployed right now. I did hold a few different jobs when I was younger, but I've decided to dedicate myself to protecting people. Admirable. But how do you pay your bills? The other man snorted. What bills? He held up a flip phone. This baby didn't cost me a yen. He grinned, but didn't elaborate further. Please tell me you've got a stable roof over your head. Shota's stomach was sinking quickly. Was Viridian homeless? I do have a stable roof over my head. At least a little, but I fixed it up. Why does that not make me feel better? He was about to say more when Viridian stopped suddenly. They'd been walking through an alleyway, and Shota couldn't see anything that would tip the other man off to something being wrong, but he'd learned a while back to simply trust the vigilante's gut. Suddenly, laughter echoed around the alley. So we meet again, Viridian? And who's your friend? Nobody you need to worry about, Viridian answered, confidently back. But Shota could see the tensing lines of his muscle. Someone you know. Shota loosened his capture weapon. You could say that. I still haven't forgiven you for what you did to me. The voice, which Shota had recognized as distinctly feminine, held a hard edge. Aw, don't hold it against me, Viridian shrugged half-heartedly. It was nothing personable. You understand, you're just not my type. You broke my heart! Are you serious? Shota gave the vigilante an incredulous look. She's your ex? Not really. I mean, she confessed to me, and I turned her down. I gave you my heart, and then you threw it away. You never even gave me the chance. I've idolized you from the moment you started fighting crime. Viridian, why won't you love me? Because I'm gay, sweetheart. Viridian was slowly backing them out of the alley, but his answer made Shota startle a bit. He hadn't exactly expected the vigilante to just come out and say something like that so plainly. Okay, then I'll make you love me or you'll die. Okay, not a jealous ex, but a crazy stalker. Noted. Shota wondered if the vigilante dealt with this kind of shit often. The woman leapt out of the shadows, her bright red hair gleaming in the moonlight. Her hair stiffened into blades. For an instant, as she threw them out like spears towards Viridian, Shota activated his quirk, erasing hers. What the? Viridian didn't let the advantage go to waste as he kicked her, hard, throwing her back against the wall. She recovered quickly and threw down a smokescreen, obstructing Shota's view. Damn it. I know you. You're Eraserhead. You can erase quirks just by looking at someone. Impressive. But useless in the low visibility environments against long-range fighters. She paused for a moment. So you're his boyfriend then? Shota and Viridian both choked on this bit. He's like a brother to me, Viridian protested. He's a co-worker, Shota protested at the same time. Brother? He mentally questioned the vigilante, but had to dodge out of the way of the woman's hair spears. One scratched his cheek. He winced. You okay? Viridian asked, as the two pressed their backs together. Just a scratch, Shota assured him. Good. Then you won't mind if I do this. A moment later, Shota was in the air above the alleyway, being dragged along by Viridian. The two landed atop a roof and took off running. Trust me, she's not someone to fight alone. There's a reason why I avoid her, Viridian said as they finally lost her. Shota opened his mouth to say something when Viridian gasped in pain. He whipped around sharply to see him crouched on the rooftop, hand clutching at his side which was bleeding profusely. Viridian! Shota was by his side immediately, assessing the injury. It was deep and would undoubtedly need stitches. I'm fine, the vigilante panted. Just a scratch. Shota shook his head in disbelief. I'm taking you to a hospital. He moved to scoop up the injured man who staggered to his feet. Nope. Sorry, Shota. No can do. Hospitals and I don't mix. I don't care if you mix or not. You need medical attention. I can call Recovery Girl if you don't need to go to a hospital. And I'll get medical attention. At home. He smirked as he leaned backwards on the edge of a roof. See ya later, Eraserhead. Shota ran to the edge of the building, but found no trace of the vigilante. Damn it, he's just too good at disappearing. He pinched the bridge of his nose. You'd better be okay.
Let me sleep. Guys, Viridian's hurt again. Fury, what happened? Let me sleep. We ran into some crazy stalker of his who attacked me. When we got away, Viridian dragged me away from the fight. I realized he had a deep gash on his left side. He was losing a lot of blood. Fury, bring me to the hospital. We'll meet you there. Let me sleep. I would if I could, but he ran off. Sidamine. Again? Fury, why does he always run off when he's hurt? Let me sleep. He said, hospitals and I don't mix, and then jumped off the side of the building. No sign of him. He's just too damn good at covering his tracks. Fury, at Viridian Chaos, you'd better be okay. Let us know you're at least alive. Sidamine. Well, here's to another sleepless night.
Viridian stumbled into the clearing of his home. He was losing a lot of blood, and shit wasn't looking good. Honestly, shit was looking kind of fuzzy and unfocused. Izuku! Kaigo rushed to his side. Kai? What are you doing here? Bad feeling. Thought him came. He scooped up the injured vigilante and carried him inside. Kaigo wasted no time in clearing the table and getting out the supplies needed. Shit, why do you always do this to me? I can stitch myself up, Izuku protested. Nope. What kind of brother would I be if I let you do this on your own? He shook his head and started to get to work. Jeez, in just a week before your first day at UA2? Won't Aizawa be suspicious? Probably. Izuku winced as Kaigo pulled at the stitches too tightly. Sorry. No apologies for saving my life. Fine. Kaigo was going to say something else, but Izuku was on his way to passing out. Damn it. Wake up at a decent hour tomorrow, would ya? Thanks, Kai. Anytime, Zoo. And that was Viridian, Breaking the Exams, Chapter 7 by Silver Mist Anime Lover. I hope you all enjoyed. Please leave a comment because I really enjoy reading those. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Goodbye!